This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. This is a finance show for small business owners about money, how it works in our business and personal lives, and how we can build wealth to be financially independent. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today is episode number 55. Today's episode is titled, Time Management for the Small Business Owner. Let me paint a scenario for you that's not that infrequent in my life. And maybe yours isn't exactly like this, but I can venture to say that you have dealt with this in some scenario or some way or another. So imagine this. It's Sunday afternoon, you go to bed and you look at your calendar and you say, okay, I have this, and this to do tomorrow. You know what your day is and you're like, man, it's going to be a busy day. So now the alarm clock goes off early Monday morning. You lean over and you give your smoking hot wife a kiss right on the lips. I mean, just plant one on her. You grab yourself a coffee. You drive to the gym while you're listening to some soft music. Maybe it's jazz or maybe it's some classical music. You just have an awesome workout. You get a hot shower at the gym, throw on your clothes, get to the office, and you're like, man, here we go. Let's start this day. And then like a bomb goes off. Boom. Something happens. We call it life. I say oftentimes life happens. Life happens and the phone rings, or maybe an email comes in, or maybe an employee or team member comes together. But something happens and suddenly this day, which was picture perfect, that you had planned to the T, is now just in shambles. Everything's upside down. And before you know it, Saturday is here. And it's Saturday at like 10 or 11 at night, and you slide into your bed exhausted and wondering, man, what in the world did I accomplish this week? Have you ever been there? Friends, I dare say that if we're in business for any length of time, we're going to experience a week like that. Now, maybe you don't start it off with some soft music. Maybe it's not the gym, but maybe it's a walk through the woods. Maybe it's a walk around the block. Maybe it's taking your dog out for a walk. Whatever it is. The point is that life happens to all of us business owners, and time management is vital. The coolest thing I know is this. Every one of us, while we're alive, obviously if we're dead, we don't have this, but while we're alive, we have 24 hours in a day, not 26. Some people are not blessed with more time. We all have 24 hours in a day. Now, granted, we all have different abilities and talents and gifts. And whenever we mate these abilities, talents, and gifts with our 24 hours in a day, some of us are able to achieve better things in our own worlds than others. I often think that, man, I have to go to sleep at like 9 o'clock. To me, I'm an early person. I'll get out of bed at 4 a.m. and just have fun at it. But, man, about 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, my brain is done. It's turned off. It's time to like veg out and do nothing at all. Nothing healthy for sure. Maybe eat some potato chips. I mean, people are like, Justin, don't eat potato chips. Anyways, back on point. The truth is that we all have the 24 hours. Zig Ziglar, which I love old Zig. Zig Ziglar made a quote that's inspired me many times. He said, a lack of direction, not a lack of time, is the problem. We all get 24 hours in a day. The truth is we control our time. And you're like, dude, Justin, I do not have control of my time. That bomb went off, and my beautiful Monday morning that was picture perfect, I mean, it looked like Mayberry, is not happening. I've been there. I've lived there. I think all of us have been there at some point. Tony Morgan made a quote that I'm going to give a couple times a day, and I want it to sink in. Tony Morgan said, you get to decide where your time goes. You can either spend it moving forward, or you can spend it putting out fires. You decide. And if you don't decide, others will decide for you. I think that's a powerful quote. I want to give it to you again, and I'm going to say it at the end of the show today. Tony Morgan said, you get to decide where your time goes. You can either spend it moving forward, or you can spend it putting out fires. You decide. And if you don't decide, others will decide for you. The thing I like about that quote is, other than the fact that we have to be intentional with our time, is the fact that we spend it. It's an asset. We spend this asset because we all have the 24 hours. And if we don't spend the asset in a proper manner, then we're just wasting the asset. Yes, many times we spend our time putting out fires. And in a podcast like this, talking about time management, you might expect me to give you many pointers on how to organize your week so that fires don't control your life. And I will. But first, I wanted to give you the single most important time management advice for business owners, which I have learned firsthand. I mean, this, friends, is number one. There is nothing more important than this to me in my life. Stephen Covey wrote, "The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but rather to schedule your priorities." Henry Kissinger said, "There cannot be a crisis next week. My schedule is already full." You see, Stephen and Henry had it right. As business owners, I implore you, you must schedule free time for yourself. You must do it. You're like, Justin, that's the single biggest piece of time management advice you have? Yeah, that's it. It's as simple as it gets. You've got to schedule some free time for yourself. You see, if you're like me, I am driven. I know the goal. I know the race I'm running. I know what I want to accomplish in the time period I want to accomplish it. My team, they know my goals. They each are driven at their own rates. We have members in our organization who have goals, and they will do everything in their power to reach those goals, including putting many, many, many hours in, both in and away from the office. And that's me. I will work like a dog. But before you know it, and maybe I'm a little sensitive to this right now, I've had lots of family members pass away in the last 18 months. They've kind of hit home to me. And one of them, my uncle, he passed away. We call him Uncle Barry. He passed away. Good man. Love this guy. He spent his whole life working for his retirement. Retired, bought a little house in the country, and lived in his house less than 6 months and died of cancer. And maybe I'm a little sensitive to that. My dad had that happen to him. He passed away at age 62 unexpectedly. Retired just a couple years earlier than that. Friends, it doesn't do us any good to just go and build up major businesses if we don't live. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon actually wrote, and I don't even have this on my notes, I'm just talking to you from my heart here. Solomon wrote that vanity of vanity, everything's vanity. He was talking specifically about trying to gain assets. What happens if you gain the whole world? Eventually you're going to die, and the assets are going to go to people that don't understand the sacrifice you had to reach those assets. So to me, the biggest single thing that I've learned in my business, and I've been in business for 25 plus years, and that is you have to schedule time away. Maybe it's a camping trip with your family down by the lake. Maybe it's a few days at a historic site. Maybe it's taking your child fishing. Or it was something that my wife and I were talking about yesterday. We need a romantic getaway just to go spend time with each other. Why is that important? Well, there's a number of reasons why you need to schedule your free time. Because when you schedule your free time, it becomes important to you and to those it involves. After I learned this concept, Emily and I make it a priority to schedule the days that we want off. This year, I can remember we looked at Memorial Day, and we looked at Labor Day, and we looked at the 4th of July. We looked at our birthdays. We looked at our anniversary. Then we had a couple of strategic things. I'm taking some advanced courses this year, and I know I wanted some time there. I have hunting season, which I love to go hunting. We go fishing together. We have our family vacation, so we had some time off. Now, they don't have to be long, extravagant trips, but we just wanted some time where my phone is off, my life is unplugged, and this time away is a priority for me and my family. See, as the year progresses, these free times become welcome sights to me on my calendar. I'm at one right now. I'm a week away from going on a trip for an event that I scheduled on some training, and I'm looking forward to it. I mentally need a break, and I'm looking forward to this particular event. You see, but scheduling free time also shows my family and my friends. You know, if I'm scheduling time away with my family or if I'm scheduling time away with my friends, it shows them that they're important to me. They're as important to me as my business is. And candidly, it shows my team and my customers or clients that my family and my friends or my time away is as important to me as they are. Now, it doesn't sound right to say that, but let's face it, people will take as much as we will give them. Whether it be our family, if we give them time, they'll take as much time as possible. If we give it to our friends want more time. They're craving. We're all a lonely society. We all beg for more friends. Employees, they want more time with the team leader. They want more time to do things within the office. Or when they're away, they want more time away. We all want to show our friends, our family, our team, even our customers, what is the most important to us. So whenever I schedule time away, I notice that it shows a priority on what's important to me. And I notice that when I schedule away free time, I actually get more free time. You're like, Justin, that makes no sense. Yeah, so think about it this way. When I schedule on my calendar time away from work, those who know me best hold me accountable to be away from work. One of my team members, Jim and I have been together for almost 20 years. He'll tell me, you're leaving your phone here, right? I'm like, leave your phone. Go away. Because I have a tendency to look at an email, and all of a sudden my mind, instead of being on a trip away, let my brain rest or be with my family, all of a sudden I'm pulled, and then wherever I'm at, I'm not there. Or I'll get a phone call, and my mind goes back to the office. So whenever I'm scheduling free time, I actually get more free time because people around me hold me accountable to that. And whenever I schedule free time, I actually become more productive at work. Like, what? So have you ever noticed when you go out of town for a week, maybe it's just me. I was talking to one of our customers the other day, or one of our clients the other day, and we were talking about this, and I said, you going away anytime soon? He said, yeah, man, but you ever notice when you go out of town that the week before you go, you like do twice as much work, and then when the week when you get back, you have to catch up, it takes you 2 or 3 weeks to get back even? I'm like, yeah, it happens to me, and it probably happens to you. And right now you're shaking your head going, yep, Justin, that happens to me. But have you ever noticed when that week before and those 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, you somehow manage to get through that week? In fact, you become more productive during those weeks, which actually goes to tell us that we're actually spending more time at work than we need to be. So just consider that. Free time allows me to control my life as opposed to being run by my companies. I want to have the chance to feel like I'm in control of my life as opposed to someone telling me where to go. And when I'm away, I have a chance to reprioritize the things in my life and look at those things which are most important. Friends, I don't know about you, but in my order, the number one priority of my life is my family. There's nothing more important to me. You ask anybody in my office, my family is number one. Nothing more important. The clients, I love them all. We have some great clients, but they're not more important than my family. As if I had to choose between my wife and clients, I would choose my wife every day of the week. So it gives me a chance to reprioritize that, hey, my children are getting older. My kids are growing up. My wife she and I are getting older. It seems like it's happening every day. And she's the most important thing. And so it allows me to stay focused. So my point is this: schedule your free time first.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
My big point is time management. You can't manage your other time management unless you schedule and take care of yourself first. There's just no other way. So that leads me to number 2. Another key thing is to use a calendar. In every business, we can have some control of our week. Now, I have clients that would differ with me, and they'd say, I can't control my week. Every time I start it, the whole thing just goes to pot. Well, no, that's not exactly true. We can control our week. If you're in a business setting like mine, we use electronic calendars. We book out weeks in advance. I have clients who are in the medical field. They book out 6 months or 8 months in advance. On the other hand, I have clients in the construction industry. They're dealing with 1 day at a time. I actually know individuals in the construction business that after their morning ritual, whatever that may be, they will actually sit down and on a yellow pad write out their list for the day. And they'll try to go through that list as not to get distracted. Regardless of your method, whether it's an electronic calendar like me, maybe it's a sheet of paper, whatever it is, my point is to use a method and plan your work. A third thing when it comes to time management is we need to identify the big time wasters. For me, the big time waster is chit-chat, office chit-chat. I get pulled into a lot of different things around the office, and I'm not saying it's bad. It's like, man, I've got this many things to do, and I want to get home and be with my family, but I have to get this work done. So to me, I have to be cognizant of the chit-chat in the office. For others, I know it may be emails. One of the team members, I'm going to leave this one anonymous, but they actually get distracted by pop-ups. So when they're working on an internet site, they'll actually go over and try to find something like a Google search or whatever, and there'll be this little pop-up banner. Not necessarily a pop-up that comes up in the middle of the screen, like a banner or sudden, and it's they just get sidetracked real fast. I know some individuals who get sidetracked with phone calls or text messages or Facebook. Oh, help us. I think I read a study some time back about the amount of hours that are wasted in an office environment through Facebook. Now, friends, I got to tell you, it's not just office environment. I was with one of our contractors, and I was laughing. I said, dude, how much time are you going to spend on Facebook? Oh, man, I just got to go check my status. I'm like, man, that's a major time waster. So what are your time wasters in your life? What are they? What is it that is causing you problems? See, I love G.I. Joe's statement. I use it often. It says, "And knowing is half the battle." And I remember that from a cartoon in the 80s. I remember watching G.I. Joe as a kid. And I remember like this one time that a power line had fallen down, and G.I. Joe comes to the rescue and tells the kids how bad the power line is. And they always say, "And knowing is half the battle." Same thing here when you're identifying your time wasters. Knowing is half the battle. But then that leads us to number 4. And that is to prioritize. Prioritize our schedule. There's a rule of 80-20, which is called the Pareto analysis. We know the rule of 80-20 is often dealing with revenue generation. I often hear that in the business world as you get 80% of your revenue from 20% of your clientele, or 20% of your customers, or 20% of your widgets. But it also has an application of time management. If it's true that 80% of our results come from 20% of our time, then what we could focus on would be the 20% of our time which generates the 80% of our results. So what is it that you are doing in that 20% of the time that you need to enhance or do more of? What I probably say in most businesses is we need to learn to delegate. We need to hire somebody else to help take over that 80% of our time waste. That's one rule for prioritization, is look at your 80-20. You can look at that 20% range and say, you know what, we need to work on this. We need to focus on that 20%, those things which generate the majority of revenue. There's also the ABC method, and this is where you place a priority on your work. I've seen people use ABC, like the letter literally A, B, C, and they'll write out their list or for that day or that week, and they'll say these are A events, or this is number 1. This is the first thing I need to accomplish. So they may use a 1, 2, 3 analysis as well. Maybe you look at it and you say, hey, here's the first thing I need to accomplish. These are all the number 1s, or these are all the letter A's. I'm going to get these knocked out of the way first, and then letter B is second, and number 2 is second, and then C third, obviously number 3. So you can place a priority on things. President Eisenhower said, what is important is seldom urgent, and what isn't urgent is seldom important. You could be like Eisenhower. He broke things down to 4 categories. He said things that are important, things that are not important, things that are urgent, and things that are not urgent. So urgent and important tasks always come first. And then important but not urgent tasks come second. And then that's followed by urgent but not important, and then not urgent and not important. So many times things that are not urgent or not important, somehow if we're not careful, they get brought up to the forefront as opposed to those things which are important and urgent. So that's Eisenhower's task. He used 4 different categories, and that can be a little bit of a hard thing to follow verbally. So we're going to have that in the blog where you can see that exact analysis that Eisenhower looks like. That is probably my favorite analysis that I use for prioritization, is just to look at things which are important and urgent. And let's focus on those first. So like I said, I would always look at urgent and important things. They always are going to come first. And then I look at important, but not urgent, followed by urgent, but really not important. One of our team members often say, yeah, this one doesn't generate any money. That would be, it's urgent, but it's really not important in their eyes. And while we're talking about delegating, so we were talking about delegating things in the rule of 80-20, or placing those things which are lower priority and delegating out, and even in those urgent but not important things, and those important but really not urgent things, we can delegate. But while we're delegating, number 5, we need to make sure that we properly train employees as much as possible. You're like, Justin, what does it have to do with calendaring? Well, hear me out. Whenever we start delegating items out, we need to make sure our team members are trained. We just don't want to go out and give them something to do. You're like, Justin, do you realize how much time that's going to take? Yeah, I do. But here's the key. You want to train them as best as you can, and then avoid them as much as possible. And at that point, you're like, what? Yeah, so think about this. Let's say you have a business, which is a cleaning business, and you have employees or team members who are going out all over the county or country, wherever, and they have jobs, and you have already trained them, and they are efficient at their work. At this point, you want to avoid the employees as much as possible, because the employees are going to take up time. If you're dealing with 70 employees, you could end up with 75-minute conversations. And all of a sudden, you've lost an hour and a half, 2 hours of time dealing with 75-minute conversation. Truth be told, it's probably close to 4 hours of your time just dealing with the platitudes and the pleasantries of employees. Now, am I saying that employees are evil? No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you're delegating, delegate and then avoid and let your team do their job. And then number 6, I'm going to use the word squirrel, like the one with the fluffy tail. People familiar with ADHD have seen the animal, a squirrel, used in conjunction. In fact, as I was doing research for the show, I actually found shirts from the ADHD Society that had squirrel on the shirt. And I was like, man, I wonder why squirrel comes into play. Well, we have squirrels in our backyard, little gray squirrels, and man, they're always moving nonstop. They actually have a thing called restless tail syndrome. Their tails cannot stay still. It's pretty interesting if you actually watch it. Now, when they hug up against a tree, they can be still, but if you even then, their tail's always someone moving. They can bury nuts in the ground. I've sat in the tree stand many times during hunting season, during deer season, watch them find nuts and go and bury it, and then forget they just buried a nut there and buried a nut right on top of it, only to find that they had just buried a nut in the exact same hole. It's kind of funny. And they love to chitter-chatter. Squirrels love to chitter-chatter. They talk all the time. Why am I saying squirrel? We must avoid the squirrel. Wherever we're at, we got to be there. We have to focus on the task at hand. So when it comes to time management, we're always going to see that shiny thing. Or as in the movies, they say squirrel and the dog goes running off. My kids like to laugh at that. We're always going to get approached with that squirrel event, that thing that's like, oh, squirrel, there's something. And then we're trying to stay focused. Whenever we're controlling our calendar or whenever we're trying to do time management, we have to stay focused on the task that we're in. In an office setting, that can be hard. This guy named Jim in my office, I'm in the middle of something, and he'll usually start just talking about a whole different avenue. I'm like, stop. I can't handle it. Or I'll do the same thing. I'll walk in and I'll dump my brain, and the teams are like, Justin, we're not ready for your brain dump yet. We're in the middle of something. So if you're dealing with an office environment, or maybe you're dealing with the ride around the vehicle environment, you got to be focused on what you're doing and avoid the squirrel. And lastly, there's a cluster task. One of my biggest time waste in my landscape company was drive time. And it was nice. Don't get me wrong. During the summertime when the South Georgia weather was like 105 degrees literally with the humidity, I mean, you get out of the truck and your shirt instantly is wet. I mean, all the way down to your socks, your drawers, everything's soaking wet. It was nice to get in the cool truck and ride around a little bit. But man, it ate up a lot of time. I remember the first time I lumped or scheduled the work sites near each other. I saved so much of my production time in that week. I actually worked less and got more done. So literally my time, quote, on the clock was less, but I was still yielding the results of the week before I began clustering. In the dental offices, we have a lot of dentists we work with, and we deal with what's called block scheduling, where we block things together intentionally. In my world now, we do lump scheduling, for example. So we have a specific time that we schedule new client interviews every week. That's just where we're focused on our brain. We're right there. We have a specific time that I have blocked on my calendar. It says casework, where it's planning and research. And so we start doing cluster tasks. Maybe you're in a manufacturing environment and you can cluster a couple of similar tasks together back to back to back so that your mind is already in focus with that same methodology as opposed to shifting all around methodologies in your practice or in your business. See, all these items help to manage our time greater. But here's the thing. Your specific business will add specific challenges. It will. This is an area where a good business advisor can help. Now, I know I often help our clients with scheduling thoughts and challenges and adjustments because time management is key. It's key to a startup business. It's key to production within our minds, within our bodies. And so I'm going to ask you the question as we wrap this thing up. How's your time management? Do you feel like your business is controlling you more than you're controlling it? Do you feel like you're wasting a lot of time? Do you feel like you're productive in your 40, 60, 80-hour work week, whatever it may be? Or is there room for improvement there? Friends, I got to tell you, I think anybody who listens to this would say, Justin, man, there's lots of room for time improvement. So I'm going to leave you with a quote one more time from Tony Morgan. He said, you get to decide where your time goes. All of us can. That's what he said. You get to decide where your time goes. You can either spend it moving forward or you can spend it putting out fires. You decide. And if you don't decide, others will decide for you. Now, I don't know about you, friends, but I want to spend my time moving forward. As the Latin saying goes, tempus fugit. That means time flies. So that's it for this week's episode, and thank you for joining me on the Financially Simple Podcast. As always, the show notes and links for today's podcast can be found at financiallysimple.com under the heading Podcast. Hey, and while you're on the blog, feel free to sign up for our weekly newsletters. Every week, I release some of my best writings. We have tax tips, business plan tips, wealth management tips, and much more. Hey, if you like the show, please subscribe. Share the podcast with other business owners. We're just here trying to educate folk, trying to add a little bit of light in this business world. And as I say every week, life is hard. Man, life is hard. Life is very good, though. Life is good. And life can be frustrating. Man, money, it doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all go out and make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple Podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.